Welcome to No Compromises, a peek into the mind of two old web devs who have seen some things. This is Joel.
And this is Aaron.
Joel, I was wrong.
Oh, whoa, hold on. There must be some audio problem here. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, that was me saying I was wrong.
Okay. I want to hear everything more about this.
Yeah, I mean, I say it here and there. You've worked with me for a while, but I feel like maybe I don't say it enough.
Okay.
And throughout my career, I wonder if I've said it enough and if I should be saying it more.
Hmm. Well, the only way this could get better is if this also goes with I was right.
I was wrong and you were right, Joel.
That's right.
So I want to talk a little bit about why it's difficult to say you're wrong, especially when you're a programmer.
I can relate. So yes, this is good.
So first of all, let's just kind of tee it up and say, like, let's remember who we are as programmers. If you enjoy being a programmer, it's the thing, and you have a natural sort of ability to do it. You're not just
Mhm.
hammering your head against the wall. You're probably you're pretty logical person. You look at stuff as not completely black and white, but there's a lot of exactness in perhaps in your life. And I think that's some traits that some programmers have. Not all. I mean, you're sloppy, Joel.
What? I was just gonna
But
say
I mean,
I like a good rule as much as anybody over here.
you're right, right. I knew. But there are some times when you know, you get stuck with something and you maybe are proven even wrong,
Mhm.
but you don't want to admit it, right?
Sure. This is human nature. I don't think this is just programmers, but maybe we
Well,
struggle more with it a little
right,
bit.
right.
Yeah.
So in life, I like to look at it. I always look at everything I kind of bump into and say, what can I learn from this?
Hmm.
So I was looking for something else on Reddit, and I'm not sure how I came across it, but I came across one of the Reddit communities for neurodivergent people.
Okay.
And so I don't believe that necessarily is me, but I thought it
Hmm.
was interesting to kind of look at some of these people, what they're talking about, what their struggles are, because maybe that'll help me be a better person to understand and work with them in the past too, because
Sure.
I can always learn. So one of the conversations I ran across was this really abrupt and sort of straightforward conversation. And I loved it a lot because it taught me something great.
Mm.
So it was this person, and they said, "Hey, why is it that people, when I am right, still won't say they're wrong? And they seem like they'll never listen to me." And you have to understand that based off of the group of people we were talking about and listening to here, there wasn't like a cocky attitude there. That was just a
Okay.
legitimate question.
Sure.
So I read that, and my first was like, "Oh, everyone's wrong." But then I remembered where I'm at and what I'm trying to learn. And so I just kind of read through it.
Yeah.
And there was something in there that was useful for me too. And that is, when you're wrong, there's two things that pop up in your life. And someone had explained this in the thread, but I kind of took it and went with it a little bit for myself, which is when you're wrong, you could be factually wrong, and then you can feel embarrassment and emotions and things about that too. And
Yeah.
so this thread was kind of explaining that even when someone, discovers that they're wrong, they might not want to admit that you're right because there's some pride. There's some, maybe they're feeling some anger. And this was a thing
Hmm.
that they were being explained so that person could learn. I realized that that happens to me a lot too. I think there's two reasons. I think one is, you got pride. We all have pride, especially we've been doing this for creaky long forever. You start to think like, I know a lot of things, so you have that. And the second thing is that, and this is probably just a me thing, I don't mind sharing this, is when I'm wrong, I feel personally, and I'm going to sound like a jerk, I feel personally that doesn't happen very often. And so
Okay.
I'm afraid to say like I was wrong, because the next time I say something, people might not listen to
Mm.
what is now a right answer.
Like it diminishes your authority a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is this isn't, none of those things are correct. That's not how I should be approaching the world. But I think it's important, and I'm picking on programmers here. Like you said, it's
Yeah.
it's everyone. But my experiences tend to be that programmers, we have to aim a little bit harder at some of these things to understand some of that stuff compared to maybe someone who's in sales or in people management and stuff like that. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there, Joel. I know I gave you a lot of
Sure.
information, but I'm curious what your thoughts are about, how easy is it to say you're wrong and how can maybe someone get better at that? Because you say it to me all the time. You're always like, oh man, Aaron, I am so wrong. I'm
That
so glad you're here.
that sounds like me. Well, I do. I think where I thought of when you were bringing this up, the thing I was connecting to in my own life is, I share a lot of information. Like we have the newsletter and I publish a tip and I share those on
Mhm.
social media. And every time you do that, there's an opportunity for somebody to basically either tell you you're wrong or say something that makes you realize, oh, I actually was wrong. Like, and so
Mhm.
um, part of me definitely, I get the embarrassment or the annoyance factor, but I think what really helps me, and I don't know if this is a lesson to take for the person receiving it, but the way somebody even says it goes a long way toward helping me admit I was wrong or even be grateful that they shared the information with me. There was actually
Mhm.
a tip I shared just a couple weeks ago. I won't get into the specifics, but I wouldn't say I was wrong, but I had a code example that was a little misleading or could be interpreted as I didn't understand something. And so the person who pointed it out was super nice about it and it even phrased it as a question like, hey, I don't quite get this. Can you explain it to me? And then I'm like, oh no, I'm wrong. This is not correct. And so but the way I don't know if he did that intentionally to be nice or disarm me, or if he genuinely was just leaving open the possibility he was wrong. But it helped me a lot, and I think that is so much easier because you don't get defensive if somebody comes at you in a polite and respectful way.
I think I think you're right. And another thing that you discover as you move on throughout your career is that you will be wrong on
Sure.
every single plateau of what you learn. And I kind of
Yes.
joke about this as, especially in the PHP world, we have, I would say, some pretty defined plateaus of how you learn something because of the way that our ecosystem is structured. So there's the easy, like just someone gets right into PHP, they make a few things. Oh, I know PHP. No, you don't. And
Right.
then you got the next person who goes and maybe makes their first, Laravel project. Oh, I know PHP and Laravel. No, you don't. And just kind of moving on. And even
Yeah.
now, we'll get to places where like I'm pretty certain I know all of Laravel now, and then I'll read the manual again and go like, oh man, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
you know. And so you start to find out that even over the years, there's plenty of opportunities for you to know something at the time and be right in your head and maybe still be wrong, and so you kind of have to remember that as like every sort of belief that you have as you're becoming a better programmer is available to be challenged and could be wrong.
Yeah. I do. I mean, I don't know if I'm patting myself on the back here, but I actually do appreciate learning things. And once you get past the initial discomfort of being wrong, especially being wrong publicly, like I was reflecting on this. It's like I'm actually learning a lot by trying to teach other people. But you have to be open to it. So that's kind of one other thought. But then the other thing, I just to give us some wiggle room here, Aaron, just to be, you know, so we don't have to always feel like we are wrong. Sometimes two people can have a different viewpoint on something, and they're
Hmm.
not both wrong, or one's wrong and the other's right. Like there's a lot of context in programming. We might share something based on the type of projects we work on, and somebody's working in some giant corporation with a 50-person team, and our advice wouldn't apply to them. And so like we can both be right and still have different opinions.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that as like,
Oh,
I could say that it's wrong to make a for loop to sort of add together a bunch of elements in an array. You should use
okay.
array reduce. But
Oh,
that doesn't necessarily mean one is right or wrong. It
yeah.
just means that maybe these things are different solutions for also the different type of problem and the different level of data and the amount of times
Yeah.
it's going to happen and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I realize we were saying wrong a lot, and I didn't mean it to come off so strong. Like you're
Sure.
wrong. I
Yeah.
just mean that like there's something I could be doing better, and someone told me about it, and now how do I respond?
Yes. Yeah. And there's degrees of wrongness too. There's something that you can actually be like categorically wrong. Like if I had a code example and there was a syntax error in it, like that's clearly wrong. But then there's like these gradations of, well, in this scenario, that wouldn't be maybe the right way to do it. And so just I would think even for the people that are correcting other people to keep that in mind. Like your context could be different than the other person's context, and that's where some of the difference in opinion is coming from. Aaron, I have some definitions, some trivia, some words I want to throw at you.
Oh,
What do you call a place that has a bunch of like broken down cars just waiting to be scrapped?
Northern Wisconsin?
Okay, all right. We just
that's
lost
where I
all of our
grew up,
people.
by the way.
Okay,
That's
all
where
right,
I
so
grew
it's
up.
fine. But what would you call that? A what? What?
Junkyard.
Yeah, okay, good. Um, what would you call a place where people are buried and there's a lot of tombstones that is similar to the word you just said? Not cemetery.
I don't know.
This wasn't supposed to be a hard question. A graveyard, okay?
Oh,
A graveyard. I mean, maybe cemetery.
I
is
was
more
thinking
common.
junk. I was like, junk people? That's me, Joel.
That's just rude.
Yeah.
All right, this is the last question, and you'll see where I'm going with this. What do you call a farm that you raise grapes to make wine?
Vineyard.
Not a vineyard. Why? Like, because it's wine, it has to be a little bit fancier. Is that what's going on there? I don't know. These are the random thoughts I have, and I'm like, why is that yard different than all the others? Like, who's behind this?
It's like when people say, "Why do you park in the driveway and you drive in a parkway?"
Is this dad humor? It is, but
Yeah,
these are also the real thoughts that I think. But you don't have an answer, do you?
I don't. I'm not going to dignify this one with an answer. Hey, Joe, what are you talking about? Like tips or newsletter? What is that?
Aaron, you know what I'm talking about. But for those that don't, head over to masteringlaravel.io, and we have a sign up form right on the homepage to subscribe to our daily tip newsletter.